I'm Michelle Marks, and I'm so delighted to welcome Ed Bastian, CEO of Delta Airlines, here with us this morning. We're going to have a little dialogue, a little chat, and then we'll turn it over to you all, so please get your questions ready. So Delta is the first U.S. airline to reach 100 years. 100, I mean, that's like almost university duration. Could you tell us a little bit about Delta, like how many employees, how broad, how you've made it 100 years?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me. Angel, thank you for the invitation. We're close friends with Georgia Tech and the higher ed community, so it was a pleasure to come and speak to this group. Delta, if you're from the local area, you don't need much explanation. We're the largest employer in the city of Atlanta, largest employer in the state of Georgia. Largest airport in the world is right here at Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. Many of you flew in through there. Thank you. Hopefully, if you were smart, you flew on Delta. I'm sure most, and I know there's a really smart crowd, so I'm sure we have many customers in the room today, and I appreciate that business. The airline business has been, interesting. We started 100 years ago with one crop duster that was spraying fields in Macon, Georgia, and it's turned us into the largest airline in the world, with over 1,000 planes, 100,000 employees. There's a lot of turbulence, not just in the sky, but in the industry itself, in terms of the ups and downs from 9/11 to the pandemic that we've needed to overcome. And the reason why Delta got here first, I'm convinced, is the people of the company. We can talk about a lot of technologies and aircraft and airports, and we have a lot of shiny objects in our industry. That's the problem. People focus on the shiny objects and forget the fact that this is a people business. This is a service business, that we're here to serve. And keeping the main thing, focus on taking good care of, first of all, our employees. Our founder, Mr. Woolman, 100 years ago said, I thought it was just so prescient. I use this all the time. I was speaking at another event this morning. He told us, take care of your people, who will then take care of your customers. We're in a world where it's focused always on customer obsession and how do you send that next message, or how do you get that next deal done? You got to remember the people that are actually out there making it happen. That's my job, and my leadership team, to obsess on our people, who can then obsess on the customers, and that's how we've been able to have not just get to 100, but we're the largest airline in the world. We have the greatest revenue base in the world. We're the most profitable airline in the world. We're the best paid employees in the world. And I'd like to think the happiest customers.
We're going to talk more about workforce, but can we start by talking about bugs?
What?
And how did Delta get its name? There was an insect involved.
Yeah, well, it was the company, the crop duster was there to kill some bugs, the boll weevil, and trying to stamp it out, and started in Macon, Georgia. Wasn't that successful, so he moved his little plane to Monroe, Louisiana, where the Delta, Mississippi Delta region, wound up becoming the name of Delta. That's where Delta came from.
So your company has a lot of longevity, and so do you. This is 25 years with Delta for you, and next year will be your 10th year as CEO. Can you talk a little bit about your path?
I never thought I'd be here, that's for sure. I think that's one of the keys to learning. I've had the opportunity to do a number of college commencements. Angel's invited me twice, I think. I've had a chance to do it here at Georgia Tech, and it's a huge honor. And one of the points I always make with the students is to be thinking about your opportunities far broader than what you could ever appreciate. Certainly when they're sitting in their chair, having graduated, they're just starting. Many of them think they've crossed the line somehow, and actually they're just starting. They're at the starting line rather than the finish line. And when I graduated myself from university, I never even stepped foot in an airplane. I was 25 years old before I took my first airplane trip. So how in the world could I ever imagined back then that I was going to be trained to be the CEO of the largest airline in the world? I would have told you you're crazy. So in that respect, I've had opportunities. I started my career in the financial world. I was an accountant with Price Waterhouse. I went to school in upstate New York, small school, St. Bonaventure University. One of 9 kids. Went to my dad, and when I was thinking about college, and I asked him what I thought he thought I should major in. And he said, you're pretty good at math and numbers, you're not so good with people. And so maybe you should be a tax accountant. And he said, plus, if you're a tax accountant, you'll never you'll never worry about work, because there's always going to be a need for people to collect taxes. And so that's why I started. And I realized it's a lot more fun dealing with people than math.
We're talking a lot about workforce. You started this conversation talking about your people. And as universities are changing, so are the airlines. Can you talk a little bit about Delta's workforce and the workforce changes that you anticipate over the next 5 to 10 years?
Certainly. Well, we have 100,000 people worldwide, the majority of which reside in the U.S. Our planes generally go out to international markets around the world and come back, and kind of big hub and spoke network that we operate. Our people have tremendous technical depth, 15,000 pilots, 25,000 flight attendants. By the way, flight attendants are incredibly skilled. It takes us 6 weeks of 7 days a week training to become a qualified flight attendant. There's a test they have to pass. They have to get at least a 90 on, or else at the end of that program they fail. They don't go into it. So they're not there for your convenience, they're there for your safety. And then, by the way, they'll get you a Coke every now and then, but that's you've got to respect that. We run the largest MRO, which is a maintenance repair operation in North America, here in Atlanta. So all of that technical depth requires a lot of advanced skills and advanced training, far beyond what you get in a typical classroom setting. And so we have a big training and a big footprint ourselves around education and development. As we follow where technology is leading, I'm sure you can ask me questions about AI and digital and that world. I mean, obviously those skill sets are moving around, and whether it's data scientists or people with much better predictive, engineering and analytic capabilities, so that we can actually deploy the tools and understand what they're intended to solve, is important. But I'll tell you, it's for us, it's very much about service. There's so many people that want to apply at Delta. It's a sexy business. It's a fun business. I believe myself, I've never come to work a day. I mean, I enjoy what I do, and I think the majority of our people enjoy what they do. You take planes all around the world and interact in all types of settings, and you're very much a citizen of the globe when you work at an airline. But at the end of the day, it's about, do you have a heart for service? That's what we're training for and looking for most when we talk about workforce.
You just mentioned how much effort you put into training your flight attendants, among others. You're talking to a group of university leaders and companies, leaders that partner with universities. Tell us what you need from us. I mean, what do you need us to do to support your current and future workforce?
Sure.
And what do we need to do better?
Well, we're fortunate. We have a great partner here with Georgia Tech and Hanhill. We try to take his very best talent as they train and they come through, and many of them do come to Delta. We work in apprenticeships and internships, and not just in the engineering discipline, but in technology and in business as well, and other skills. We work at the University of Georgia, obviously a very, very large supporter of the University of Georgia. Emory, here in town, Georgia State, we have great skills. And one of the things that we have, in addition to just finding the new technology and the new talents that are going to be required in the world that we come to universities to source, for us, when you've got 100,000 people, we have many, many, many employees who've come to us over time working, not had the opportunity to get a 4-year degree. They come and come from different backgrounds and opportunities, but they have an immense amount of real-world experience, immense amount of passion, of service capability. How do we work with the university system? And we work with Georgia State, for example, here, to bring some of those folks in and train them as to learning some of the analytic skills and some of the financial metrics and modeling skills that they can take and move from the ramp into a position of leadership above a large department. And so continuing not just to bring new in, how do you cultivate talent from within? We've, and I'm sure everyone's familiar with this, we look at, historically, a 4-year degree has been the entry point for almost any job in the company. We've asked the question, why? I'd rather have talent that is hungry, that is smart, that's capable, that found a way, not through a traditional, program setting, and build those skills, into who that person is. Certainly a great way to build diversity, a great way to build a broader experience set. You think about our jobs, probably the least diverse category of employee in probably, certainly in the US industry, is an airline pilot. 95% of them are white males. Almost all of them came up through whether it's military training or similar background. So many people want to learn how they could get in there. And we're reaching out to a lot of smaller schools. We've got a program called Compel, a lot of aviation community schools, working with larger colleges as well, as to how to train and start working with people from the ground up and help them get to where they'd like to be. It's the only way we're going to change the model here and have actually a richer, broader, more diverse group of talent to spread.
So if the traditional four-year model may not be the model for Delta in the future, what is the model?
No, I think the four-year model is the model, but it's not the only model. And so we're always looking to supplement it, because I'm always looking to hire talent, but I'm looking to upskill what I already have. And again, in this world of technology, which is constantly changing, you hear a lot of companies talking about they're going to use AI and other tools to drive more efficiency, which means less people. That's not who we are. Technology for us is the tool, but the people are the center. And making certain that the people get the tools and the technologies to do their job better, whether it's AI or other technologies, that's going to be the core. And I think it's the reason why we got to number one. It's our people and it's our culture that I do believe is the best in the industry. And if you talk to our customers, I think they'll tell you that.
So the people are the best, and you're partnering with Georgia Tech and many other universities in Georgia. What do you look for in a university partner?
Well, I look for a university partner that we share a common vision of the future. I think there's a lot of universities that are on their pathways, and we come and we have a hard time maybe connecting. And again, we're blessed here at Georgia Tech that we've had former CEOs of Delta come from Georgia Tech. So I mean, this is kind of fabric, here. So it's really easy for our partnerships and many of our leaders within the company. I was a lonely accountant in upstate New York and didn't have any advanced degrees or anything. I made my way, but we have such depth of talent. So leaning on your existing partners to help you actually then expand to other universities has been the key. But for me, those upskilling capabilities, as well as people that are willing to invest, behind what your business objective is. And I know there's always a push and pull between, a for-profit's goals and a university's agenda. But I think there's a lot of common ground in there.
How does the partnership get managed within Delta? I mean, how does it actually happen?
Well, we prefer not to force it. I mean, I think we certainly have spent time with Angel's team and looked at the areas where we have common ground and investment in, and so we'll come in and we'll sit alongside them and we'll work and find ways. Brian Blake from Georgia State, I'm not sure if Brian's here or not, but we have a great analytic training ground in the city here that we work with. These are relational. You don't just show up and say, I'm from Delta, I want this. These are relationships that require trust, that require co-investment, that require somebody to believe something different than what they're doing today on both sides, and how do we get to a different end. Certainly the world is different. You look at the face of the student population is very different. One of the fun things I've had when I've been here doing the commencements at Georgia Tech is sitting there watching Angel shake hands and give out all the diplomas and looking at just the face of the student population from the world. I mean, it's fascinating understanding the diversity of talent that you have capabilities of. We're a big international player as well, so we love the fact that we can continue to grow internationally. That attracts talent as well. And I tell people one of the great reasons why people want to work for Delta is we have the best benefit in the world. Our people can travel for free. Tell me the price tag on that. It's hard to put a number on that.
All right, now I do want to talk about AI. And Ben Nelson, are you here in this room right now? Ben was on the last panel, and I want to say a quote that I'm going to paraphrase what he said in the last AI panel, which was that universities think they got it right with AI. They think they have it right, but they haven't scratched the surface of impact, and that universities are using AI to be incrementally better or incrementally worse. But he talked about the transformation that it is really a transformation. So I wanted to ask you, what role will AI play in the future of airline operations and in the customer experience that you talked about? Is it incremental? Is it transformational? Is it beyond, I know, technology that's already in use?
Well, I think anyone that thinks they've figured out AI, I wouldn't believe them. I don't think any of us know where this is headed. Yes, we have a whole team dedicated looking at deploying AI capabilities across our, whether it's operational or commercial teams, our knowledge management teams, training. There's everywhere you touch that deals with how to do things more efficiently, more effectively. AI, there's someone out there that's got a solution. I think that while the promise is significant, I think the hype is significant too. And let's not all forget there's a race going on here. It's not just a race to try to beat China. There's a race amongst 6, 7, 8 big companies trying to get there first. And far beyond the deployment of technology, that's on the back end of this. When you think about what the arms race to build out the electric capabilities, the grid, the energy sources, now nuclear is back in, it's a thing, which is crazy. When you think, not that it's anything plus or minus, it's just these things are hard to do, and they take decades, not years, and they cost far more than anyone that tells you what the cost of any of these projects is going to be. It's going to be substantial. Just ask the people here at Southern Company how much it took to build the last nuclear reactor was just opened here in South Carolina. The first one built, I think, in over 50 years in our country. It was 3x the cost they thought it was going to be, and took an incremental 5 years to deploy. That's just one. It's just that across so many different spectrums, and then the hyperscalers and the data centers, and this thing is bigger than life. And at the end of the day, I just want to make certain someone's connecting the dots on this entire big AI complex that's coming at us. And do people want it? Who's willing to pay for all this? As a company, am I willing to pay for it? To me, it's kind of an interesting tool, an idea. Is it going to help me grow my business? Probably not. Is it going to help my people be smarter? By the way, I don't call it artificial intelligence. I'd like to refer to it as augmented intelligence. So people kind of have tools to do the job. And I think the core source of opportunity for companies, and I would venture universities as well, is getting your people to embrace it. And trust is the big question of the day. Do you trust the technology? Do you trust these companies? Do you trust big tech? Do you trust big industry to do the right thing with these tools? And how in the world could you ever build trust if you're telling that this technology is going to be used to eliminate your job and whatnot? So I've made a commitment at Delta. While, yes, jobs will change, we're going to commit to reskilling and upskilling, and just keeping the people at the center and trying to find ways that people can embrace it. And because trust is going to be, I think, the core currency for any of this stuff to really come out. And if people trust it and they're willing to deploy it and utilize it, I think there's a lot of hope there. But I'm a skeptic as to the ultimate objective of many of these companies is to make money off of somebody and to beat each other. And I think if someone isn't connecting the dots along the way, let's not. Hopefully, none of us are left holding the bag 3 or 5 years from now when the next .com bubble, which burst 25 years ago, this one's going to look good potentially. That could look like a speed bump compared to what we're potentially setting up here. Anyway, words of caution.
Well, building on that, where are you seeing the augmented intelligence opportunities in the future, and what are you doing to build trust in your workforce around these changes?
So anywhere that you have a skilled worker, as a company that's 100 years old, you could imagine we have a lot of legacy infrastructure, legacy technology. Any of you are sure many seasoned travelers in this room. How many hours have you spent at an airline counter seeing somebody punch buttons into a screen, heads down, trying to figure out an answer to a complicated question, or how to get them on a flight, or how to work with a partner reservation or use frequent flyer miles. All that stuff will be a lot more effective and efficient. And that's where we're investing our time, is to help our people get to answers for our customers sooner, faster, more easier. Our app, which is the Fly Delta app, we now have 60% of our revenues come through the app. So for people wondering whether we're already using this stuff, we're already using this stuff, right? The technology, and we haven't done it at the expense of people. We've actually freed up our agents to be able to then go serve customers, whether it's in airports or other parts of the business. We have the technology. I had the good fortune of being one doing the opening keynote for the Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas this year, and it was amazing. I mean, Jensen Huang from NVIDIA was doing the beginning keynote, and I was doing the ending keynote, and so the juxtaposition was interesting. I had the sphere, he had a little ballroom, so we like to do things big in the airline space. And I talked about Delta Concierge and all the things the future can hold for customers to take control of the app and all the things that you can enable to find better destinations, serve up better opportunities within the ecosystem. The partners we've brought in from Uber to YouTube and others to make, whether there's entertainment or rideshare or other things in the midst of the travel ecosystem core, because travel is really at the core of a much larger ecosystem there. You know, the airport experiences, how do we get through, the security more seamless, using facial and other biometric tools. There's a tremendous amount that we're working there, and we do see a great future that makes life more efficient. But at the end of the day, I'm always going to make sure I have 2 pilots on my planes. I'm always going to make sure I've got Delta service at my gate, and I'm always when I pick up the phone, I want to have an option I can talk to a real person, not just to a bot. Oh. And I think those that lose sight of that are going to have a really tough time.
Well, speaking of the future, tell us what can we, I think you've said before that your job as CEO is to spend time thinking about the future. Describe the future of Delta or of the airline industry in general. 10 years in a row, what are we going to see?
Well, we turned 100, so you think you're kind of a mature industry. You're kind of seen everything, done everything at that point. And I think of Delta as we're just leaping into our second century of flight, and that's why we did the keynote at the Consumer Electronics Show, where you don't see airlines typically presenting. It's gadgets and gadgets, and as compared to an airline, a big service company. People ask me, when you look around the United States, you see the congestion in the skies. Certainly a lot of work being done on air traffic control modernization and all the technologies and the tools that need to be deployed there. They say, how can you grow? It seems like certainly here in Atlanta we have 1,000 flights a day. How much more can you squeeze into that? And I acknowledge that in the U.S. travel is a fairly mature industry, but when you think about the fact that only 1 in 5 people in the world have ever stepped foot on an airplane, wow, right? Only 1 in 5 people in the world have ever stepped foot on an airplane. I think we're a growth industry.
I was going to say, is that your growth opportunity?
And that's the opportunity. Yeah. It means we have to find ways to make it affordable, to make it accessible, to make it sustainable, and available. And whether it's I was in Saudi Arabia last week, in Riyadh, and at the PIF conference, the FII, and it was amazing. And they're trying to get between Atlanta and Riyadh is really difficult. Yeah. We're launching direct service starting next year between Atlanta and Riyadh. And you think about the opportunities you unlock, and that's what we get to do in our business. Create opportunities and development and experience and make the world a better place. COVID changed a lot of things, but the one thing it highlighted was all the people that said that COVID was going to be the death knell to travel could not be more wrong. COVID actually unlocked the experience economy, and people now have bought everything they need to buy, and they're investing in themselves. They're investing in their experience, they're investing in their family, they're investing in their friends, in their learning, their education, their opportunity. It runs true whether you're a baby boomer, when you sat home for a couple of years, say, I'll never get to so-and-so, well, they're going, and they haven't stopped going. They're going to keep going, all the way down to our youngest consumers, Gen Z, millennials, where they're traveling, particularly internationally, at a level we've never seen. And to me, that's the real basis for belief that the world, we're going to get through all the geopolitics. It's the human spirit is connecting, and the more we can continue to connect countries, connect people, connect learnings. It's really hard to hate someone that you know, right? And getting to know and build those knowledge set. And all the places in the world that feel disconnected are the places that we're trying to create opportunity for.
Many of us are frequently flying in this room, and I think many of us spend as much time at airports as we do on airlines. What about the future of airports, and what does it take to partner with airports to be successful?
Well, it's a really important relationship. Here in Atlanta, again, we operate the largest airport in the world. So you can imagine that relationship is really, really important, and we sit side by side with the community. The airport here locally is run by, it's owned by the city. And so that means the mayor of Atlanta,
Yes.
Mayor Dickens, who's a great leader, a great friend, is my landlord. So I got to take really good care to be a good occupant of his airport and allowing them to grow. Annually, we generate over $50 billion of economic opportunity and GDP for the region here, coming just out of Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. The airlines have an outsized multiplier in terms of what they do. That's why people want air service. They want connectivity and jobs and growth and tourism and all the reasons that you could imagine. And so as a result of that, you've got to work very closely. And we're a large occupant. We have 80% of the service here, and you've got to be a responsible steward of that. And one of the things I'm constantly telling Mayor Dickens is the best way to keep our fares continuing to be affordable and even more affordable is growth. Growth allows that affordability to continue to come down. And so being a responsible steward requires a lot of investment. We've invested $15 billion of our own capital in our airports over the last decade. And you look at, we've rebuilt LaGuardia up in New York, or JFK, or LAX, or Salt Lake City, and Seattle, doing a lot of work here in Atlanta. One of the things that travelers of the future want is a higher end experience and a premium experience. And when I started my career almost 30 years ago in this business, the number one reason why people chose an airline was whoever had the lowest cost. I'd argue most of the people in this room, that's no longer the number one reason you choose. You have an identity, you have a relationship with an airline. Hopefully Delta, but I understand we don't fly everywhere. And having that relationship with that airline is really important. And so having that commitment that we have to build out also goes to the ground experience, because people many times spend as much time on the ground as they do in the air.
Yeah.
And we want that ground experience to be high end. The lounges we've built, the Delta One experiences that we've created, the premium opportunities. So it's not just speed through the airport, also comfort when you're there.
I have a few leadership questions, but I want to get the audience ready to ask your questions in just a couple of minutes. One question is, what's a leadership lesson that you wish you had learned earlier in your career?
Well, since I was a tax accountant, I guess that wasn't really relevant. Everything I learned. No, joking. One thing I tell young people, and I have to remind myself at times too, something that Colin Powell taught me many years ago. Leadership is not a popularity contest. Leadership's about making hard decisions, building followership, of course, but understanding that we all want to be liked, we all want to be loved. I do. We all appreciate that. But there's a lot of hard decisions that come from leadership, and you can't always put what you want people think of you ahead of what is important for the company and the constituents and the stakeholders that you're constantly managing.
Your best advice for university leaders and leaders that support and partner with universities?
There's one thing that I think we've all recognized, how technology has changed our world and our kids and our students and beyond that. We've lost a lot of connective tissue in terms of core ability to build relationships, to create understanding. We're in a send world now more than ever. And it's not just in terms of business and leadership, it's the world. And there's not enough people listening. And I've always found, and one of the things I know that's gotten me where I am, is I want to make sure I spend as much time understanding where my partner is, what I can do to make my partner successful, And we have partners from all types of backgrounds. And I'm always asking, what do we need to do to make someone else successful? And that then builds that relationship back, and really understanding that. People are too fast to want quick answers, and they want to send their messages and direct, and particularly as a leader, big company, people are looking for me for direction. I get it, but if I'm not spending more time listening than I am leading, I'm missing out.
Terrific leadership and partnership advice.
Yes.
I'm going to turn to our audience. Questions for Ed? Cool. Let's see, I think we have our mic runners, so we may wait a moment. Or just speak very loudly and I can repeat it, Cole.
Can y'all hear me? Yeah. I've been flying Delta since I was in diapers, basically. And so I think from an experience standpoint, I can speak from an experience that you're really correct when you talk about your people and your service. When I'm forced to fly another airline, there is a distinct difference with how I'm treated as a passenger and a customer. And it begs the question, you're talking about cultivating your teams and your staff and the people who work for Delta. How do you teach or how do you source patience? Because when I see your team and how they deal with the people like us, on a daily basis, I wonder how they stay sane. And I'm curious, do you have a team of therapists? Is there like a role to play in that? I just don't know how y'all do that.
Well, thank you for
How do
that
you
question.
source patience?
I'm probably not the right person to ask on that question. Listen, we appreciate our customers, and we know our customers, depend on us. And we also know in our industry that things don't always go perfect. You got weather, you got an outdated air traffic control system, you've got mechanical challenges. And when it's a clear blue sky day, which are the majority of the time, things go perfectly. We have the best reliability record in the industry, and that's where I spend my time focusing. How do we continue to make the core operations the very best it can be and continue to be? But it's when times of stress or times when something isn't going right that we need to reach out. That's where we spend so much of our time on service training and when understanding. And I wouldn't say we have therapists necessarily, but we certainly have a lot of people that help with conflict resolution, to be able to understand, to be able to take temperatures down and whatnot, to create an environment where people understand we're all just trying to get you where you need to be, and patience is part of it. I think another big part of it, candidly, is the collaboration within our company. Our pilots and our flight attendants, our ground crews, our maintenance team, our reservations. So many people go in to building that connective experience, and the consistency across large employee groups is really key to people all feeling trust and support from that. So this morning I spent an hour and a half just down the street at the Signia Hotel with one of we call our Velvet sessions. I do 15 of these, I lead each one of them around the country, where we bring in 600, 700, 800 frontline employees for a day and a half, just talking about how the company's doing, talking about from all different backgrounds, all different parts of the world, what we need to do to be successful. And you're there, and people just they just really appreciate what we've built, and they want to find ways. There's a hunger for learning how we can do better. We are on top for a reason. It's because of our people. The most important thing our people know is it's not getting there, it's staying there now. And then getting your customers to love you is a big part of that.
I know we had a question up here. We are having trouble seeing where the mic is. So Cole, maybe you could ask your question and I could just repeat it. Okay, can you bring one up here for us? Thanks.
Thanks. As somebody who, like my colleague over there, flies Delta every week, I just want to say thank you for all that you do to make that
Thank you.
As friction-free as possible. I'm curious about you talked about the people and how important people are in Delta, but you're in an ecosystem with so many other entities that dramatically have an impact on the user experience, whether it's TSA or air traffic controllers or the airline or the airplane manufacturers, Boeing and
Right.
Airbus. I mean, how do how do you try to influence that same culture that you bring to Delta with all of these other entities that you're so dependent on for that excellent experience?
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that's changed in my 10 years as CEO, it's become more important than ever, is stakeholder management. We have a lot of stakeholders, as you say, whether it's the government at ATC or TSA, whether it's your investors, whether it's your community, your institutions, your customer base, your employee base. Yeah, there's so many different people, the OEMs and the technology companies that we partner with, keeping that ecosystem strong and vibrant. And what we like to do is not just, I can't do it by myself, but our leadership team spends a lot of time with partners as a result, and relational skills and understanding. And we hold summits, we hold opportunities for people to get together to learn more about us. The beautiful thing about air travel is many people do it and they use it and they understand it and they want to be part of it, and there's always a lot of interest in there. So we're always continuing to build that larger ecosystem that you're talking about. Boy, I can't tell you how we're going to get the skies less congested or TSA running smoother. But I have tremendous respect for the people that are doing it, particularly now with the government shutdown, doing it and not getting paid. I mean, you talk about commitment. I mean, these are not high-paying jobs, particularly the TSA, and people are coming to work. And so what we do is that we're in there, we're feeding them, bringing all different airports. We're bringing them whatever they need. We're supplementing. There's things in security that we're allowed to do as a company. We're in there. We put hundreds and hundreds of our employees into the operation and whatnot. And it's the old lesson. It's not what you say, it's what you do that people are going to remember. It's how you made them feel. And we want all of these stakeholders to recognize that we value their experience. And while we're on the user side of that, the more in which we can understand them and see how we can continue to help them, it's going to things work better. But it's, I say stakeholder management is the key, one of the keys to the success of running a large organization of any sort.
We've got another question back here. I've been working as a sustainability consultant for the last about decade, and one of my clients is the University of California system. When we look at emissions, it's buildings, then cars, and air travel usually comes up as one of the major issues. My question is, how can universities think about partnering with the major carriers? It's the type of problem. Airline emissions are not something a university by itself can. You cannot fly to some extent, which is not the answer I'm sure you want to hear. But there is kind of a transformation the industry needs to go through. How can we leverage the relationship between universities and the airline industry?
Well, we're doing a lot in various parts of our system to build what we refer to as sustainable aviation fuel. We're working here in Georgia. I know we're doing a little bit of work with Georgia Tech. To that end, we're working up in Minneapolis. We've got a SAF hub that we're working within the community to find the new fuels that are required to create the sustainable future that we all aspire to. Our footprint, and 95% of it is caused by emissions, caused by jet fuel. We do not have a substitute in the world of biofuels today. They're not economic. They're not produced at scale. The energy companies don't want to produce them because it costs anywhere between 3 to 4 times the cost of a gallon of jet fuel to have biofuel. We know technically they work. So it's how do you build it into production, and how do you get communities organized so it's not a state issue, it's not an airline issue, because the customers need it, because if we cut off air travel, it's not going to help them do their business. Consumers need it, and finding ways to understand the better. ESG, we don't talk a lot about ESG these days as much. It's an acronym that's kind of grown a little bit out of favor. But the societal impact of what we do in air travel is incredibly important, and we lose sight of that. And if S is only about sustainability and not societal impact, finding better balance. Also, when you do that, you bring stakeholders to the table. But I think one of the things we've learned early on from just trying to drive the engineering, the technology, the resources for the energy companies, just making it only about the fuels, then you lose people along the way. We got to get communities involved. We got to get businesses involved. We need government involved. We don't need mandates. We need incentives to help create a better environment. It's going to take years to get there. Every year that goes by, though, our footprint improves somewhere between 1% and 2% per year. The best way we can do it is building new engine technologies, and every new plane we take is 25% more fuel efficient than the planes we retire. So having the capital to continue to innovate there as well. But it's a larger than any of us issue, and there's no one silver bullet. You got to do everything and more. But understanding that we're all in this together. This is not states trying to regulate or trying to punish, or consumers saying that I'm not going to fly. Those are not long-term answers.
Hi, my name's Christine Lucer. I work with Minerva Project. You called out a whole bunch of really important skills that you want people to have when they work at your company: conflict resolution, stakeholder management, patience. I would be hard-pressed to name institutions that give students direct feedback on those, and probably almost no one is doing that over time and across contexts. So if that's what you want from your employees, what skill would you suggest, or constellation of them, we start thinking about how to teach directly and assess?
Well, we have a training is part of what we do. We've got our own campus center for training, and all of our employees come through regularly, whether it's pilots with their recurrent training, or flight attendants, or mechanics. So we embed within those opportunities the skills that we talked about, whether it's communications, whether it's relations, whether it's trying to diffuse difficult consumer experiences. We do work with universities in partnership, but it's not something that we would ever outsource to a university, for example. I mean, we have to own that. We have to believe in that from the leadership side. So we work with institutions that want to come and work with us, rather than we go and you go build something and try to market to us. So again, having depth of relationship, I think, is the most important thing as an institution you can have as an education university system, and building it from within, and then you figure out the times. But our teams don't quite know what's necessarily going to make universities create that push and pull that we need, that investment that we need back. It's only through years of experience and cultivating that really strong partnership that make that happen. And partnerships are the key. Partnerships are the key, and that's why I think what you're doing here is really, really important. Congrats to both of you. I know you've both been part of building this forum, and it's really important.
Thank you. I'm going to sneak one final question in before we break. Airlines have basically the same planes, right? Most of them, and share many of the same cities in a minute. How do you compete if you're not competing on planes and you're not competing on cities, maybe with the exception of Riyadh?
Our industry shares many of the same things. We all get our planes from the same two sources. We fly to many of the same destinations. The airports, the technologies, we all buy jet fuel, from some of the same places. The only thing that distinguishes an airline, and I'd argue there's a lot more companies and industries and institutions that should follow this is the people. It's the only thing that our competitors, who are always looking to copy Delta, can't, because it's the culture, and the culture of care, and the culture of service that we cultivate. The old saying that culture eats strategy for breakfast is true. And I can tell you it's true. And that's why I was up at 7 o'clock this morning speaking to a large group of people, and I do it every single day in different forums. Spending time with your people, with the culture, ensuring that they understand not just their importance, but the value that they create, and the value that you place in them, and the confidence and the courage that they have to go out and do a great job. Our company doesn't come to a fancy campus and everybody comes in and leaves and goes. Our people go all around the world. So trust and culture are so important, because these people are making decisions against conditions maybe that change, and they don't know and what's going to happen, and make decisions. And they can't call the CEO and say, we got a storm hitting, and we got where are we going to divert to, and how are we going to take it? We are trained for all of that, and the people, the care, the culture that you have to have is one of having served, and that's the unifying theme about running a people-centric organization. And airlines have as many complicated things as almost any industry out there. I don't talk about those things. I talk about my people because that's the most important thing to you as customers. It's the most important thing to me in terms of doing that.
That's the inspirational finish that we needed for today. Can you join me in thanking Ed Bastian?
Thank you. Appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.